Hello and welcome to the Audacity Factor. My name is Kathryn Daw. I'm your host and also the founder of our community on Patreon. Happy Sunday of Labor Day weekend. I'm just going to be quick here and really kind of a follow-up with my conversation with my husband about codependency from yesterday. And if you haven't watched it, please check it out. The things I want to pinpoint today, just quickly, briefly, and I would love to hear your comments and whatever other information you have to contribute. Some of the dangers in that codependent scenario, some of the key kind of behaviors and dynamics that occur in that codependent relationship. How many of them can you come up with? How many of them can you name? A few for me that I had experienced at a really incredibly consistent and really highly toxic level was passive aggressive behavior. Now, I've heard people say, and my ex used to say this, he said, I don't even know that I'm doing it. Well, he had it refined so deeply that he knew whatever behavior he was using was effective in the manner that he wanted it to be effective in. And what's passive aggressiveness? Now, I don't have a definition up right here for you now because I decided just to talk about this quickly. That for me, the experience of passive aggressive behavior is when someone is choosing to not share they're hurt, they're disappointed, they're frustrated, whatever they are. And it could be at you. And this is those of us who have suffered this type of trauma for a long period of time. It ends up, we are in this constant state of worry that I did something wrong, I said something wrong, or I didn't do something, or I didn't say something. That's really a big part of the conversation. And it's really about them being unable to, being unable to share it or even admit that there's an issue, and then punishing you kind of for that, so that it's a symptom of something that's going on with them, right? But in that codependent relationship, it can be ultimately because you're in this state. You have no way, you have no identifiers, you have no information. So you can't even make any kind of choice or decision or action step because you have no idea what's going on. Another one that I experienced in that codependent relationship, and these for me were all forms of abuse. These were forms of that abuse that can run under the wire, but then trains you, because you experience it so consistently, trains you to you don't know what's real anymore. You don't know the truth of anything because you're not given any information. Is the silent treatment. Now, if we go back and we look at punishments, say, solitary confinement was always one of the worst punishments because you are disconnected. You don't have access to anyone. You don't have access to connection, and you are literally left to yourself without any forms of compassion, empathy, love, connection, any of it. So for me, that was a big piece of what I experienced, was the silent treatment used as a weapon of disconnection and punishment. That's again, this person used that highly effectively and consistently as well. All the while being in denial. You can ask, how many times can you ask if something's wrong? Because obviously there is. And they say, no, there's nothing. And then, complete disconnection, complete silent treatment for however long that they feel you need to be punished or disconnected from for whatever it is that they actually are having a problem with. So those for me were two of the biggest, really super effective manipulation, undermining, disempowering tools that were used in that codependent relationship. And for me, My tools were to shrink myself or to people please or to and this was kind of a reactionary process to what I was being subject to from the other side, which really was, when you really look at it, it's a inability for them to give you any information or a choice. I mean, it's obviously always a direct choice for them not to be able to admit to whatever it is, the issue that they're having, because they'd rather see you punished and fawn or be afraid. I mean, it's really a power play completely, as is the silent treatment too. So those were two of the things that I was subject to for years. And that's all part of the training. That it was all part of the training in any kind of codependent relationship. If you're familiar with gaslighting, you know, the whole purpose of gaslighting is to bring you to such a state of fear and confusion that you doubt everything. There's no way for you to know what's real and what's not real. And that, for me, I think was the most undermining, was that I eroded my own self-trust so much that I didn't trust myself to do anything. And I considered myself a powerful, strong, competent, fearless woman. And here I was, literally like this cowering mouse, kind of shivering, cowering, afraid to do anything or say anything or not do anything or not say anything, because so it didn't matter ever what it was or wasn't. It was just, I knew I had all of my strengths wiped away. And maybe it's not wiped away. It's they become somehow inaccessible, you know, until maybe there's this one point, there's this one day you have had enough and you're saying, I am done. I can't tell you how many times I did that. And then, of course, it becomes then the other person then switches that flip that they have to temporarily become this other compassionate person that they aren't in reality. Or if they do have any source of empathy or compassion, they can either pretend very briefly or they can only access it very briefly, because I don't know if they see it as a weakness or they feel it's an energy draw of some kind for them that they don't want, because they want to draw your energy. They want to use you for their energy source, for their source of feeling good about themselves, for them being able to, they want to be seen by you as this vision that they have in their head. And you need to do everything you can to support that vision for them, so they don't ever want to be seen as something different than that. So when you're in an intimate relationship with someone like that, you truly, I believe, are the only one that actually knows who they are. And they don't want anybody else to know that. So this is why you end up so afraid, so confused, disempowered, hopeless, because they don't want you to leverage your strengths to say, wait a minute, this is not who you are. I know who you are, and I don't want to be around you again, ever. I know that litany was going on in my head for so long. It took me a long time to actually not just act upon it, but act upon it and stay there. So I did that loop a number of times before I could actually leave and stay away. And it can seem counterintuitive, but I had to put blocks up for myself so that I didn't go back into what I consider almost an addictive pattern, even though it's a pattern of abuse. I had to block myself from him so that I didn't continue to reach out for that abusive connection. I know it's bizarre, but that's the reality of it. You can point at people all you want to and say, how could you possibly stay in that abusive scenario, abusive relationship? Well, this is how part of how it happens, and then we have a tendency to shame and judge ourselves for, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I stayed that long. I can't believe I let this happen to me. That's what it becomes about. And then it's got that whole other layer of, you've got to brave up. Literally, you've got to pull out your courage and revisit your strengths and know your capabilities and your value and your worthiness to rescue yourself. And then it's a process of recovery after that. So that's kind of the reality of these scenarios. What else would you add other than, the passive aggressive behavior, the silent treatment behavior, whatever else, the blame can be a huge one. And that's something that I don't get involved in at all, is blaming. And although I have in the past, for sure. But it seems like it came under a microscope for me during that challenge, that I saw how destructive it is, because I was blamed for everything, literally everything. It's funny, funny, but not funny. There was a time when I traveled for 2 months, to get away from him, and I was coming back to, I'm going to move. And he wrote me this big email, and asked me to marry him. And I'm thought, you are out of your effing mind. And then when I got back, I stepped back into that scenario. However, we didn't get married, luckily. And then I found the original draft for that email, and it was the total opposite of all the BS that he said in the initial one. He blamed me for everything. He blamed me for my family members not liking him. He blamed me for my friends not liking him. He blamed me literally for everything, and wanted me, how did he put it? He wanted me to make reparations. But again, that was really how he saw it. But he understood that those aren't things that he could actually say for him to be able to get what he wanted. But just for an example, but bizarre, right? Anyway, I just wanted to talk about this really quickly as kind of a follow-up to the video that my husband and I did yesterday, which I recommend that you take the time to watch. And we will be doing another one as well. So we look forward to seeing y'all again.